Hey Warren, how are you doing?
Doing well.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Warren. I'm from Washington State. I was the 2019 National Geographic Bee champion, state champion, and I'm here to offer some of my experiences from study.
Yep. All right. So, what do you want to talk about? And this is kind of like a podcast about it's a mixing of like competition experiences and like mental health things like that. So, anything from your experiences you want to talk about related to doesn't necessarily have to be like a super major problem, can be anything.
Yeah. Well, I found while I was studying for the competition, I would always have like sort of focus issues because it would become like hours at a time. You'd get 3, 4, 5 hours stacked on top of one another, and it just get really um, really hard to go through it all. And specifically, especially when it comes to geography, um, studying like when you have like so many countries to study from, um, you're you're really like pulled into trying just studying all of it at the same time, but it's just not possible. So you have to like keep on one country at a time, and it gets really hard to just continue on one country for that long. It's just it really kills you because you want to discover the world, but you have to persevere and you have to like do it one step at a time.
Yeah. Do you think you see that like focus? Because I know like I when I talk, I'm not like some wise figure that has everything figured out. Like I have these problems too. And I'm sure everybody else has problems with focus and things like that. But do you think that kind of problem that you've discovered with focus in geography, do you see that now in high school?
Well, with high school, I find that when some of my classes, like I know one of them just gets particularly, uh, I get a huge workload one week from one specific class. It gets kind of like annoying. Like I'm fine with like all my different classes giving work at like higher levels, but when it's just specifically one, it gets really annoying because you're just doing this one assignment for forever. It feels like,
Yeah.
um, and it's sometimes just really hard to focus on that because it's difficult.
Yeah, and I think you figured out a solution to kind of managing like staying on one thing and getting bored and kind of feeling a variety for things, right? Do you want to kind of talk about how you went through that? Obviously, it's not like the entire solution to everything, like it's not completely figured out, but it definitely helps, right? The sense of being able to jump between things and not feeling like you're trapped in one location or one field.
Yeah. Well, I found like you know, one thing specifically was using variety to study. Um, I could find that like, taking notes is always boring. It's never going to be exciting. But if you do multiple things, like if you try quizzing yourself, if you use different websites, if you try creating documents, just trying all the ways you can to try and just engage yourself in the material, um, it really works because um, it doesn't feel like you're trying to just, you know, uh, it doesn't feel like work as much if like you put it that way. You're having more fun doing something that's relatively repetitive if you just keep using the same studying strategy. So yeah, I felt that using other study strategies is just really helpful.
Yeah, do you think that helps you now, like kind of in high school? I know like that kind of thing is kind of limited because often when you're like studying for a math test or something, you might not have as much time to keep going around and like using Quizlet or this, like you strictly have to do the practice. But do you think there's something that you could use in high school that could help you with that?
Yeah, well, My teachers offer tons of resources. They're really good at that. Um, for example, for my honors world history class, my teacher uses like, Kahoots and like, uh, there's this, I know, I forgot what the name is, but she used this fun game to like sort of engage us and help us remember the material before a test. And um, it's really helpful because um, like your brain is sort of engaged not only in learning the material now, it's also like having uh, pleasure. Like you're also using your brain to do another type of thing along with what you're studying. So um, I find, you know, uh, games and quizzing are particularly effective, as I found with lots of my classes. Like, um, you know, before tests, big tests, my teachers always like to, quiz us a lot using like uh, Jeopardy. Jeopardy is like
Yeah,
it's like a classic. It just feels natural, more natural.
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't feel like you're studying. You have to put in like so much effort anymore.
yeah.
So yeah, I think using those kinds of strategies can really help because um, you're not just stuck with one thing for that long.
Yeah. I don't know if you do this, but another thing that helps me is like when you were talking about specifically geography, this helps me in other places too, but um this is a really good example for geography, like staying on one location, like if you're on Russia, which is huge and has a lot of information. I remember one day I was doing Russia and like normally countries aren't that big, so like can breeze through them, but Russia is huge. So what I did when I was studying that day, like I got bored pretty easily because the names are kind of the same. The there's so many rivers, there's so many things. Um, but what I did is I kind of shifted to other regions when I was doing that. And I think that's something that you mentioned when we were talking is like instead of being so focused and trying to finish something, it's more about like covering more ground, and doing more things than staying on one location. Because if you're getting bored and you're not having fun, then there's really no point in like keep pushing yourself to do something that you don't want to really end up achieving. And so I think that's a really good strategy is kind of when you're getting bored with something, like just drop it down and do something else, that will like provoke fun for you, that will allow you to like associate it with having fun and like helps you remember it better. And then you can come back to that activity later that you didn't finish. That's something that helps me a lot. Even with like time management, like sometimes I'll be bogged down with one activity thinking like I have to finish this now, I have to finish this now, but like I have so many other deadlines, and so I'm like, if I have to do these all anyways, then why not just drop this and finish this and come back. And that's something that helps, like you said, it refreshes your mind, and kind of your brain is doing more things and you don't feel like you're just trapped in that one location. So that's one thing that might help people that feel like they're stuck on one activity, that are bored. Like one major thing that you have to realize is it doesn't matter like when you do it. Like you don't have to do it all at once. You can push the ball halfway and then push another ball and then come back to this one. You don't, it's like you're not tied to the ball forever, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, um, I think yeah, that's definitely a strategy I use a lot because variety really just helps a lot.
Yeah.
Another thing I found particularly helpful with studying is taking breaks, a classic method.
Yeah.
Um, you know, sometimes like you need a break because you're going to work better with it because you got to clear your mind sometimes. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a deadline in like, I don't know, 24 hours, you got to take breaks or else your mind is going to get bogged down with like everything. And um, you're a lot more efficient when you take breaks in between. They don't have to be long breaks. They can be, I don't know, 1 minute breaks, 30-second breaks, but they have to be breaks where you can clear your mind, think of everything you have to think of what like everything you have to do, plan it out. In like what I love to do during my breaks is just organize my classes in order and remember what I have to finish. So breaks are excellent for doing that, and I find that I can complete things a lot more efficiently when I take breaks.
Yeah, and
Especially so, yeah.
yeah, I think that's a good.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can finish what you were trying to say.
yeah. So like uh, if you get, I don't know, it's a feeling that if you don't take breaks, it's sort of like you get tired. I don't know how you sort of put it, but I get tired when I have to like continuously do this, and in the end, I just feel like I'm mindlessly working like a robot. I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't feel natural anymore. It just feels I'm just like working.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
see
feel
what you're
as if
saying.
I'm doing it productively. Yeah.
Yeah,
So taking breaks can, I guess, help you find the purpose in your work is like, and just finish it.
yeah. Another thing about breaks is you kind of mentioned this, like not feeling bogged down, kind of when you're doing something for a long period of time, especially when you have a deadline. Um, it kind of you kind of feel stressed, right? Like, am I going to finish this or not? And that stress kind of builds up as you're going, because that's just like natural human reaction to if you have a deadline in like 24 hours, like, am I going to finish this or not? And we can relate this to when we were talking about your GeoBee experience. um, you mentioned that you would feel like stress as you were studying, kind of related to, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Like, I'm not going to be able to finish all of Asia before nationals pops up or something like that. And even on like the stage, obviously, this is a stress that we all have, especially if you're in the 8th grade and you're going to even if you're not even the one that's answering the question, like when somebody gets another question wrong, you feel that stress of like, what if I was that person? I got that wrong, my entire GeoBee career is over. And so you, if you want to talk about your personal experience relating to that stress, I'm not going to push you to talk too much about it. However you want to talk about it, and then I want to talk about my personal way of how I coped with that, and you can talk about yours as well.
Yeah. Well, you talked, as you said, there's like even pressure when other people sort of stumble a bit. Um, I took it a bit of like, sounds a bit like, I know, a bit selfish, but sometimes I took it as a bit of an encouragement,
Yeah, yeah.
because um, like I
Like
felt bad
one
for the
less
other people.
person. It's one less
Yeah,
person, right? Yeah, I know that
yeah.
feeling.
Other people, I felt bad for them. Like one person, like at nationals, he couldn't see the board, like because he didn't bring his glasses,
Yeah,
and he ran out of time, and they wouldn't allow him to redo it. So um, like I felt bad for him, but at the same time, you just feel it's encouragement because you're one step closer to your goal.
yeah,
Like because you have that chance to just um, keep going,
yeah,
and you have to take the initiative in like that kind of situation. Um, I find that during the competitions, like you definitely have to calm yourself down. Even if you get something wrong, you have to take it. You have to realize it, but you have to forget it in like an instant because you can't let that hurt you. And um, I found myself in so many situations where I'm so scared that I'm gonna get something wrong, and then I do get something wrong, and that mentality isn't like a good mentality because you're just expecting yourself to fail. And that's, I mean, it's science really that if you expect yourself to fail, you're going to fail like at a higher rate. So
Yeah.
um, you can't, I find that like just that feeling just is really, really stressful. And at my own experience at the state GeoBee, like I got a question really, I got a question wrong really early during the competition in top 10. And I was like stressing out because I, I thought I was like done because, you know, everybody else was doing so well. And then I was the only person who was just lagging
Yeah.
behind. But then, you know, I caught up and I turned it around. And um, I think I was just really calm in those after that because I realized, you know, even though I have set such high standards for myself, sometimes it isn't going to go the way that you want it to. And sometimes you just have to take what you get and you have to just come off of everything you know. Just fight it.
Yeah.
Like don't don't let it get control of you. You have to keep going and who knows, you might end up at the top. It's it, it's really valuable experience that I've learned um, over my participation in the GeoBee, I found.
Yeah. I can kind of speak to that. I still don't think they scored my written geo challenge properly, but somehow I was the lowest score in the top 10 for the preliminary, and that was eighth grade. So I was like, and my score was pretty low compared to everybody else. Everybody else was like, oh my God, I got a 9 on the written geo challenge. I got like a 6.4 or something. And I didn't even get all oral rounds. And so, you were there. I was like freaking out, like, oh my God, I didn't make it. Like, it's over. And then I see my name on the last, it says Texas Nihar Jenga. And I'm like, okay, somehow I did that. And I wasn't expecting to win at all because I was like, okay, I got such a bad score on the Geo Challenge. Like, there's no way I'm going to beat these kids. And like, that stress was there from the beginning. And then the moment I got a question wrong that like everybody else got right, like except for maybe one or two people, I forgot what the question was about. But, and then I was like, okay, it's over. But then there was this one question that like everybody got wrong, but I got right. And then like that's when I realized there's no point in stressing. So like the entire rest of the competition, I was still stressed because like it's national competition and you're in the finals, but I wasn't stressed about losing. It was more I was stressed about like just performing in front of an audience, like just normal kind of you don't want to like trip or something. But yeah, that's the moment I realized, especially this is true in the GOB more, not really the spelling bee, because if you get one wrong, you're out. But in the GOB, you're not expected to like get 10 out of 10 perfect in everything. You're expected more to get a higher score than everybody else, if that makes sense. And you know this. And so what is important is that you don't focus on getting everything right, but getting right what you can. So if you get one wrong, you shouldn't be thinking about that the entire competition. And that's kind of that moment when I got that question right, when everybody else got it wrong, is when I realized if I had been stressing the entire moment and just thinking about the question I got wrong before, then I wouldn't have the brain space to care about this question that set me up to eventually get first. And the same thing in the tiebreaker finals happened in the championship round when Atrea got the question right and I got a question wrong. I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna try for the rest of the questions. Like it's just over. But then I remembered again, I was like, I shouldn't let that like you said, you shouldn't let that stress come to you and hurt you, because in that moment, what matters is your entire brain space is devoted to answering and thinking about the questions, not if you're going to get it wrong or right or anything. And it's kind of a little different while you're preparing, because you kind of have that space to think about possibilities and stuff because you're not on such a deadline. But one thing I found when I was preparing, like if I set a goal, like I was like, I'm gonna finish Europe by the end of this week. And I see you nodding, you probably set goals like that for yourself too. But um if I was like on the last day of the week and I was like, I still have Germany, I still have Italy, I still have Spain, France, like how am I gonna finish all these in one day? What I realized is that you need to prioritize what you study and how much you're going to study. It doesn't matter if you finish the entire thing. Like I said before, it matters if you cover more ground rather than covering more depth, if that makes sense. And this isn't only really true for GeoBee, this is like true for any aspect of life. Like it matters if you do more than try to like perfect one thing, which might be which might be like not true in some areas, but that's how life goes. Like some things are true in some areas and some things are not. But mostly I feel like personally it's more important to cover more ground than to dig deeper. Because when you cover more ground, you're setting yourself up for kind of being like the jack of all trades and understanding a variety of things. But when you're digging deep and not allowing yourself to look past that hole, you're kind of, like you said, you're kind of trapping yourself in that area. And I'm sure for people that are like focused their entire time and devotion into just one thing, like I know there's people that spend a majority of their time on one activity just because they're passionate about it. That's normal. But spending your entire like 99% of your time on one thing and digging into that hole constantly, I think personally, I think that might be successful for you, but personally, I think you would be more successful if you dug like if you dug like 60% deep in that hole and then 40% you're going other areas. That's what I feel. And that all ties back to the same thing. Like don't trap yourself in one hole, because eventually if you get bored, then um you have to waste the time and skill you could have used before to learn new things. And that's what happened sort of to me. Like because I spent so much of my time doing spelling and geography in elementary and middle school, in high school it was hard for me to like grasp other things that were kind of more important. Like I know they tell you you're going to learn how to like talk and like lead and stuff in spelling and GeoBee. To some extent that is true, but not to the extent that like society or the education system expects you to. So like the entire year ninth grade, like I had to pay that price of a lot of people think it's like, wow, you won the spelling bee in GeoBee, but not that many people see the cost of that. And that's what I want to kind of bring to light here, is that it's not just the positives. It's not just like you gain all this knowledge, you gain these prize money, you gain this status, you gain this reputation. Like we are humans too, and there's a cost to everything, is what I feel. And that's kind of what I endured in ninth grade. I had to spend like that entire time um like building up those skills that I hadn't done, that other people have already done in elementary and middle school. And so personally, because of that, that's why I feel like it's more important to cover ground than dig deep in one hole. And that goes back to the entire variety, shifting up things. You're going to be better at something if you do other things relating to it. But I think that's like a nice conclusion, wrap up thing to everything, unless you want to say more.
Uh, yeah, I just have one last remark. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, there's so many things where if you get into it too much, you gotta pay the price for doing that. And in so many like occasions, you're gonna find that maybe you won't like get exactly to the goal you want, or you may just find out that you actually don't want to take this path, but it's already too late because you've given way too much up and it's too hard to turn back sometimes. So yeah, I feel like um, just balance yourself so that
Yeah.
you're always going to have a better time if you balance yourself. You're going to enjoy life more if you balance things more. Um, I mean, you can have passions. Like, not saying you can't have passions, but
Yeah.
um, you have to know the limit that you can put on those. Because if you start digging way too deep, you're going to reach a point where you can't crawl back out of the hole that you've dug yourself. So yeah, I I find what you said like was just you know really applicable to life in general.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have anything else you want to say, anything about your experience or anything you think you want to ask about my experience that you think could help. Um, if you don't have anything, we can end it right here, and hopefully I can talk to you in like a few weeks or something. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you
All
for
right. Thank you
having
so
me.
much for sharing your insight and everything. This was very helpful.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.